Okay, I think we'll get started. So coming off of last lecture where we talked about thermodynamics in a general electric field, and we talked about generalized force, generalized displacement, and then we used the gravitational field as a simple example, and we derived the barometric formula. Now we're going to enter into a series of several lectures where we look a little bit more detail at the electric field. So a fluid in an electric field. So we'll be talking about an isotropic fluid. So we aren't going to need to worry about tensor components and symmetries of crystals and that sort of thing. And we'll be talking about a uniform electric field. Today we're going to lay the groundwork by talking about a Frank apparatus, which is an apparatus that Henry Frank proposed in a 1955 paper to do the thought experiments surrounding thermodynamics in an electric field. And it's nice because it allows us to control all sorts of different thermodynamic environments that we might be in. And then we're going to derive the isothermal electrostriction, really isothermal isobaric electrostriction for this fluid. All right, but before we get started, we need a few things from electrodynamics. We need the electric displacement, and that's related to the electric field. We're always going to be trying to expose the electric field here because that's going to be our controllable thermodynamic variable. And then, looks like I got a little erased here. This is equal to the permittivity of free space times the electric field, and then plus a component due to the material itself. And that's most directly related to the polarization of the material. Now we can also cast the displacement in terms of the dielectric constant. So this is the dielectric constant right here. And we can cast the polarization in terms of the electric susceptibility. Now, we can then plug this into here and get just the expression in terms of the electric field by pulling out the electric field. Then we can notice that the form here is the same as this form for the electric displacement. So we get a relationship between the electric susceptibility and the dielectric constant. And so finally we can express the polarization in terms of the dielectric constant. So when I was doing my work in nonlinear optics, the electric susceptibility was really the thing we wanted to look at. But in thermodynamics, it's often the dielectric constant. So it's nice to be able to express things in terms of the dielectric constant. Now, just as an order of convenience, well, I guess a couple things on units. You might check another book and this 4 pi won't be there. Electrodynamics are notorious for the units being a lot more complicated than they seem like they should be. And so you might see some different formula here. The 4 pi is just going to go along for the ride. Rather than writing the permittivity of free space all the time, let's just work in units such that the permittivity of free space is 1. So everywhere along here, that would be also just going along for the ride. All right, so let's get into this Frank apparatus. And we'll use this book as kind of the example. So what we're doing is we're seeing the book in this form right here. And so we'll consider this as parallel plates. And so the covers of the books are the 2 plates. And then it has a thickness L here. And so this has an overall volume of V. So the block A is representing the area of the whole surface. The block V is the whole volume of this book, or the whole volume between the plates. Now, if we imagine this little text box here as being a piston whose walls are still the parallel plates, so the thickness is still L, and then it takes up an area A, and that area can change based on the vertical wall of this piston. That's exposed to pressure. And then we also have connected to this piston a membrane that we can either turn on or turn off that connects the very same fluid here, so identical fluid, but not in the electric field. So there's this reservoir of fluid not in the electric field. So we can talk about open systems where it's free to change. We can talk about cases where we have constant chemical potential. This, oftentimes, this pressure is equal to that pressure, but it need not be, and so we'll keep that separate as a capital Pi. We won't be using that at all today, but we will in a future lecture. Now, the charge on the plate is given by the surface charge density, the sigma. This is the sigma A is the charge on all of this that is not the piston, so exposed only to the vacuum that's in between the plates. And then the sigma little a is the charge on the plates that are exposed to the fluid, so the piston plates. Now, we, as you're probably familiar with, the parallel plate is a very nice object to think about when talking about electric fields because it produces a uniform electric field, and the voltage is just linearly proportional to the distance across to the field or the distance. So the voltage is the electric field times the distance between the plates. Now the charge is given to us by the surface charge density, so the charge per area. When we look at this bit, that's going to be block A minus little a, so that's where this is coming from, times the sigma block A. And then this bit is going to be just A times sigma A. We can rearrange that a little bit, pull out a little a here. So there's our voltage, there's a charge. We want to put this in the form of work as a generalized force, generalized displacement that we can then get into the first law. So the work done here is the voltage times the change in charge. So a little change in charge, how much work does that take? Well, let's write the voltage here as E times L for the parallel plates. And then dq, so d of this. Now we're going to do something here. We're going to bring the L in and multiply by the areas. So again, big A is this whole area. That's a constant. L is a constant. So that multiplication will give us the constant volume block V, the big V here. So block V when we bring that in. Now we bring in the L into the A, that is no longer a constant because A isn't a constant, but the L is, so that can go inside here and just multiply and create just regular capital V here for our the volume of the fluid in the piston. Now we have to keep it inside the D, as I mentioned, because we are able to move that piston. Okay, now also from electrostatics, for a charged plate, the electric displacement above that plate is 4 pi times the surface charge density. And so for this area here that is not exposed to the fluid, the electric displacement is just the field, then times the permittivity of free space, which we're just calling 1. So that's just E. And then the displacement that is exposed to the fluid is the field plus this polarization term. And so when we look at this term, we can express this as D capital A, or block A, and then this 4 pi here, that's just that 4 pi there. Likewise, now we're in this part, and so this can be expressed as dA, which is E plus 4 pi polarization, minus big A, so minus E. So the E's will cancel there and leave just the 4 pi polarization, or just the polarization. Okay, so we can now think of this work in two pieces. This piece, which is the electrical work done to charge the plates. But we're not worried about that from the thermodynamics of the fluid perspective. So this is not work done on the fluid. So the work done on the fluid part, and this got a little erased here, so fluid part is just coming from this term here. And so that is this, and the 4 pi's have canceled there. Okay, so there's our generalized force, generalized displacement. The generalized force is the electric field. The generalized displacement is this polarization term, VP. VP is extensive, so, and E is intensive. So going back or connecting back to the last lecture, we will use the just the total internal energy U and not the U prime. And we can directly write, so getting our formula from last time, our general formula for last time, we can write this Gibbs-Duhem-like equation. So we now have the overall full chemical potential for this fluid in the electric field. Now, let's go on and talk about electrostriction. In order to do that, we're going to need to work with one of the other auxiliary functions, the Gibbs free energy function, and in fact the Gibbs free energy prime. So we're going to flip the role of the generalized force, generalized displacement. And so that's going to be U minus TS plus PV. That's the normal Gibbs free energy outside of the field or without the field. And then we need this term here to flip the role of the generalized force, generalized displacement. In differential form, then we have this. And from this, we can develop a Maxwell relation between the volume, so the volume term here, and the field, and that's going to be our electrostriction, because it's going to be how volume changes with field strength. And then the complementary term here is going to be VP, polarization, dP. So this is fancy P here for polarization, and P, regular P for pressure. They're oppositely signed, so we're going to get a minus sign here. This is going to be at isothermal and isobaric conditions for a closed system. And then this will be constant field isothermal for a closed system. Now let's focus in on this term right here. So I'm just going to take this term, and I'm going to substitute in now this, but with the permittivity of free space just set to 1. So that just becomes electric susceptibility, V times electric susceptibility times the electric field. Now the electric field is constant, so because we're under these conditions right here, constant E. So that can come out. We don't need to worry about that. But we do need to use the product rule now on the remaining V and chi. So we pull out a V. So first times derivative of the second plus second times derivative of the first. So that's just product rule right here. But now let's look at this term here. This is how volume changes with pressure. So that's almost the, under isothermal conditions, that's almost the isothermal compressibility. So we're going to define, well, the isothermal compressibility is defined as negative, and that's just because most fluids will, the volume will decrease with pressure, so the negative sign accounts for that to make the overall compressibility factor coefficient positive. 1 over the volume times that exact derivative there. So if we were to multiply top and bottom by volume here, volume over volume, then we can pull out a volume, and we will have then a beta. We got to remember the minus sign, so it was a plus sign right here, minus sign. And that is what this term is. Now, there's an overall minus sign here, so when we get to this, here's the original Maxwell relation now. So this is this. The blue was just looking at this piece right here. So now we have minus EV, partial susceptibility with pressure, under isothermal conditions, and then the isothermal compressibility times the susceptibility. Now, as I mentioned, in thermodynamics, usually it's often more convenient to work with dielectric constant because there's lots of nice formulas for the dielectric constant as a function of temperature and pressure and so on. So we'll make the replacement here of chi equals E minus 1 over 4 pi. So in the derivative, with respect to the derivative, it's only the dielectric constants that's going to remain active. The 4 pi is going to come out, and then the derivative of minus 1 is just going to be 0. So this term is just going to become 1 over 4 pi partial epsilon partial p. And then this term is chi itself, so that's just going to be epsilon minus 1 over 4 pi. We'll pull the 4 pi out. Now, this is not common notation here. Just for this series, I've defined this capital Xi symbol at constant temperature and constant pressure as the isothermal isobaric electrostatic or electrostriction term. And so what we need to do is we need to take this and divide by volume. Okay. And so here we can see how this depends on the dielectric constant. And so if we think about this, this is going to be a very, very small term unless that electric field is very large. So the electric field needs to be very large for this to have any effect. Also notice, so this is dependent on the dielectric constant as a function of pressure. So that should go up with pressure because if we press more material into the system, then the dielectric constant should go up. Here it's negative, the coefficient of thermal expansion, which is going to be small, but they'll be sort of countering each other because this is going to always be positive here. So this term in brackets is going to be very, very small. And so again, the electrostriction is not something that you would notice until you get up to very, very large fields. It's interesting, in grad school, one of the people I worked with was looking at conductivity in solutions once you use a laser to induce some charge transfer that then causes these charge particles to migrate across plates. And so he would have this cell that you could look into, and you could apply these very high voltages to it. And normally you fill the cell with fluid and you don't really see anything when the voltages are on. But what was interesting is if the fluid wasn't full all the way, you could and you turn up the voltage, you could just see like the surface bend. So there's some, you could really see the effects of the electrostriction in that case. And I can't remember what the voltages were, but we had a high voltage source. We had to be very careful about impurities in the solution because you'd get kind of stray current coming across from all that voltage. All right, so this is the first of several lectures on the topic of the electric field as the external field. All right, so this was a uniform electric field, and it results in electrostriction, which is a small effect, only valid for large, or only noticeable for large electric fields.